Hello, I'm Cole from eStarland, and today we're going to be talking about video game remakes. Often contentious, yet often anticipated. Some transcend dimensions, while others prefer to stick closer to their roots. Among the swirling sea of these titles, a specific one calls out to me. Super Mario 64 DS. Released early into the Nintendo DS's lifespan, Super Mario 64 DS is, of course, a remake of the Nintendo 64 classic. In a way, it only seemed natural for Nintendo to demonstrate the power and capabilities of their new handheld by re-releasing one of their flagship titles from years past. Now that we have that out of the way, I'm confident in saying that Super Mario 64 DS is superior to Super Mario 64, and here's why. Let's begin by setting the stage. The DS was not a powerful handheld. At best, it proved to be a competent visual upgrade to the Nintendo 64. Even at the time, it was outshone by its competitor, the PlayStation Portable. However, the DS more than makes up for it with charm, and that's exactly what Super Mario 64 DS has going for it. It's just charming to look at, to see these environments rendered with a bit more detail and style. It creates a sense of familiarity while also laying the groundwork for plenty of new material and sights to see. On that note, let's briefly talk about the plethora of new content that Super Mario 64 DS has over its source material. Not only are there new characters to play as in the forms of Luigi, Yoshi, and Wario, who each possess their own unique abilities and playstyles that alter how one can approach a challenging level, but it also features several new stars to collect, as well as an extensive collection of minigames, providing on-the-go entertainment long after the final star has been collected. Gambling in my rated E for everyone video game? It's more likely than you think. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to take off my rose-tinted glasses for a moment and acknowledge one of the game's more notable flaws. A passing glance at the Nintendo DS reveals a lack of an analog stick, a staple for fluid movement in three-dimensional environments. As a resort, you must use the touchscreen to accomplish the same feat, or be stuck with 8 degrees of movement using the D-pad. Admittedly, this makes movement feel a little stiff at times, but I don't really find it as nauseating as Super Mario 64's camera controls. Now that I took off my nostalgia goggles for the DS remake, you should do the same for the original. Trust me, it hasn't held up in that regard. What Super Mario 64 DS has over its predecessor, and a big contributor as to why I think it's superior, is its portability. True, this isn't a big issue anymore now that Super Mario 3D All-Stars exists, but at the time, if you were a consumer of Nintendo products, you really couldn't get console-quality experiences on the go. And this remake offered just that. An experience that was not only more feature-packed, but could also be engaged with at any time, at any place. The success of the Nintendo Switch nearly a decade and a half after the game's release only furthers my theory that gamers want these kinds of experiences to be made portable, no longer confined to a couch or a chair. I'll close this video off with something to ponder. At the time of Super Mario 64 DS's release, the original was 8 years old and a generation behind. What better way to introduce a classic to newer generations than a remake, especially if said generation is likely to be averse to anything that's considered old. Reimagining retro titles not only appeals to those who look upon the originals with reverence, but it also helps young gamers appreciate the history while engaging with it through modern sensibilities.